Here's my truth of working with both kids and adults with autism. Now, just to give you some clarity, I've worked with both kids and adults for over 15 years in this field. I've worked in group homes, I've worked in day hab facilities, I've even worked in schools. One thing I can honestly tell you, it is not an easy field to be in. And whoever's watching this video, I'm sure if you have experience working in this field, you understand 100%. Let me tell you one of the biggest things that I struggled with when I first entered this field. Fresh out of college, my mom, she's a special educator, and she's been a special educator for over 30 years. So when I got out of college, she figured, hey, I'm going to get you a job. She got me a job. She helped me get a job in the special education field. And that's where I started. That's where I made my beginnings. When I tell you I was not prepared for what I was about to encounter, let me tell you the challenges of working in this field, especially if you are not passionate. If you're not passionate about entering this field, my suggestion is most likely you're going to have to pick another field. Don't ever enter into this field if this is about money or any other thing besides helping these individuals. That's one thing that I've learned, because I've came into this field and it was a big eye opener for me. I was hit with so many challenges. It's almost like I had to learn how to communicate again, because you're going to meet so many of these beautiful individuals that unfortunately they have a lot of deficiencies. Some are nonverbal, some are verbal, some cannot communicate the way, typical people can communicate, right? So when you get into this field, you're going to have to figure out whatever your role is, whether you work in the office, whether you're a paraprofessional, whether you're a special education teacher that's new, you're going to have to figure out how to communicate with these individuals. Because like I said, these individuals have their own way of attempting to communicate. Now, while I'm on this topic, let's talk about behavior, because it kind of piggybacks off of the communication. What I found out is behavior, the disruptive behavior that we all know and love. Disruptive behavior is not always, it's not always a defiance, but sometimes it's a cry for communication, especially from the nonverbal students. A lot of the nonverbal students don't have a way to communicate. Some of them have, the PEX device, all of these other, similar devices. The unfortunate thing is not all of them have mastered using these devices. So when you encounter these individuals and you're trying to find out how this person uses the bathroom, or if they even have to use the bathroom, for example, now you're looking around the room like, can someone help me to understand if this student has to go to the bathroom? Because they may be fidgeting, they may be doing something that seems abnormal and questionable to your mind. But this was one of the biggest challenges for me, understanding students. And this is why I learned that you have to gain rapport with not only the students, but their families. This is the only way you're going to start to gain trust. This is the only way the student is going to understand and have a trust for you to work with you. And don't get me wrong, in the beginning, when you're gaining rapport with new students, a lot of times it's a rough terrain to travel. It's a rough road. You may be getting kicked, spit, bitten, all type of things. But this is where compassion comes in. This is where your role, whatever your role is, you have to come in with patience. You got to come in with compassion. This is the type of field you can't come in with, your baggage from last night. If you come in with your baggage, it's going to show. It's going to show, and some of these guys can recognize when something isn't right with you. I've been in this field for a long time, and I've realized you have to leave whatever baggage you have at the door before you work with these individuals, because it is a hard, long road ahead. Let's talk about, again, let's piggyback off of what I said before with the managing behaviors, the disruptive behaviors. You have to come in with compassion. A lot of these guys just, like I said, there's a lot of things that could be intentional when they're acting up or, having a disruption. But there's other times when it's just a cry for help because they can't communicate. They need something in that moment that they can't use their device for because they either weren't trained to use that device, or it's just a very imminent thing where they feel like they can't even use this device. And that's why gaining rapport is so important, because you getting to know the client that you're working with. This is what's going to help you to understand symptoms, things that occur when you get to know them, and you get to know some of their behaviors, some of their past things on their IEP. You start to understand it because you're working with them for so long. So now when they show certain signs, you're like, oh yeah, all right, let's get him to the back. Let's kind of move the students away. You pick up on these things. And I'm not saying you always are going to pick up on these things, because there's going to always be something new that you're like, what is this? I've never seen this before from this student. He's never exhibited these kind of behaviors before. What is this? And now you got the BCBA beside you looking at you like, okay, because they're going to be the ones to implement certain goals, and then you're going to be putting it into place once you see what the goal is. But there's going to always be a surprise. There's no one in the school that knows these students perfectly. These guys are going to come up with new challenges, new behaviors, new everything every once in a while. But the reward of working with these guys for me was seeing them reach their pinnacle, whatever the pinnacle is. The pinnacle could be them learning how to tie their shoelace, depending on if they're low functioning, high functioning, that could be their pinnacle. Their pinnacle could be putting away their clothes independently, working on ADLs, working on things that many of us, typical people, we take for granted. So that is something that was a very big reward for me, especially when it came to one of my students that I was working with him for like over 5 years, and he was very low functioning. But it got to a point when after I left the school, a recent staff there sent me a video of the student folding clothes, putting clothes away, and I was like, what? When did this even happen? Like, I was so shocked. But the fact that I saw that, it did help. It did create something in my heart. It made me feel like all those years of getting spit at, almost bitten, seemed like it was worth it now. Now that I saw that, So, like I said, this field is not easy, and you have to be passionate working in this field. You have to be. Also, another thing that I realize working in this field is you got to have an understanding that families of these individuals, the emotional toll that is taking place on their mental health. A lot of times, a lot of parents, they go through so much with these individuals. We're only with them for 8 hours out of the day. These guys are with them for most of the time. On the weekends, they struggle. They don't have the resources they need. There's a lot of things that they struggle with that we can provide as educators. But I also want to talk about on the flip side of that. As an educator, you also should be having an emotional recognition for the toll that it could take on your mental health. Understand self-care and mental health checkups are so important in this field. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, you will get burnt out in this field. Guaranteed. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I am a recipient of being burnt out in this field, especially when you realize just how big your heart is and how much you want to really help these guys. But then you realize, damn, we got no resources here. We can't, how are we supposed to help out these students if we don't have any resources? And then what you end up having, what ends up being certain is teachers and paraprofessionals alike have to dig in their pockets to find some money, to scrap some money together to find something to help these students and facilitate more learning. That's what ends up happening because of lack of resources, which is very sad because this population definitely needs so much resources. Let's talk about the high turnover rates. You guys understand the burnout that I just mentioned? This is why in this field, the turnover rates are ridiculous. People are losing their minds at a swift rate. This field, like I said, if you're not taking breaks, if you're not checking in with yourself, if you're just constantly coming in and working, going home, going to sleep, coming back, working, you're not really reflecting on the day, reflecting on what you can do to rejuvenate yourself before you have to come and clock back in. It's gonna burn you out really fast. The turnover rate in this population is crazy. People, I mean, I understand it. Don't get me wrong. I completely understand it. Because the work that educators do each and every day is taken for granted. They do not appreciate to the level that I believe educators should be appreciated. Educators should be on the top of the list in this country as far as being appreciated and paid. Don't forget that. Educators are not getting paid the way they should be getting paid. You got athletes getting paid to bounce a ball. I'm not saying that's not a talent, but come on, educators? You don't think educators should be getting paid like athletes? As much damn roles as educators take on, especially, you got educators doing hostage negotiation on a daily basis just to de-escalate some violent homicide that's about to happen in the school. You understand what I'm saying? I know you do. I know you understand what I'm saying, because anything could happen in these schools during these escalated periods of time. You got staff doing 2-3 man hold on certain individuals that are having trouble. Physical holds on the floor, almost like wrestling moves that we have to do just to secure this client, make sure they're safe, and make sure no one else is getting hurt. You can't tell me these individuals, these people that take care of these individuals, should not be getting paid. I'm not going to forget to mention that because that's very important. This is a high reward job, but also we should be getting paid the way athletes are getting paid and other people. But like I said, if you are in this field, please take care of your mental health. No one is going to do it for you. No one is going to remind you. You have to remind yourself that, yes, I may love what I do, but I got to come home and rejuvenate. I got to come home and refresh myself. Otherwise, I'm just going to burn out and I'm not going to give the quality care to these individuals that I serve. If you like this video, please share it with another parent, another educator. Please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.